Good day, good love, and good light illuminators and way showers. This is Wendy with Languages of Lights, bringing to you the languages of lights because everything, including you, are and speak the languages of lights. And I've been outside all morning. I've been going back and forth. It's been kind of misty and raining, and not really raining, but like a cloud would come by and it would get kind of misty. And so I was sitting under the umbrella, and then I tried to make a video, but then the lighting was bad. And now the sun's, so I moved, and now the sun's coming out, and it's probably going to get kind of toasty. So we'll see. I may end up having to move around, but wow, where to start? So I was out stretching on the deck, and wow, so many thoughts came to my mind immediately about stretching and about how as we stretch our bodies, sometimes we don't want to go to that point where we are testing the muscles because it's a little quivery, it's uncomfortable, and yet it's in that stretching that we grow. And I was thinking about too how painfully shy I used to be. And it, even though I was exuberant with those that I knew, I was still very inside myself. I was very quiet about my feelings. I was a people pleaser. I didn't like conflict. Oh God, did I not like conflict? Because I grew up with conflict. So, and I'm thinking about how all of that helped us, helped me stretch, and how I've never was a class exercise kind of person, although oddly, there was to push myself out of that boundary I had for myself. I actually taught an exercise class at a ladies' workout facility lifetimes ago, it seems. It was actually in the 80s. And that was, the leg warmers and colorful tights and little onesie outfits, and yeah, I did the whole 9 yards. I have to, I, I have to laugh a little bit, but you know what? It was because so we had to create our own routines. I had no idea this is where this was going to go, but anyway, so we had to create our own routines, and we would have to, so we would have to put together a routine, either a stretch routine. I was doing the stretch routines at the time, and we would put it to music, and so you had to devise a 30 or 60-minute routine, put all the music together, play it on your boom box, literally create your own tape, literally. And I'm just picturing it now and I'm still laughing, but because I was really trying to push myself out of my boundaries. That really wasn't something I was excited to do, but I loved moving my body. I loved exercising. I loved doing all those things. And so there was a period, and I did that for a while until it got to like into like the sales part of it, and that really wasn't my cup of tea. So I kind of moved on, but it was wonderful for me because it really helped me. And I remember even being back in the 12-step program when I was a kid in Alateen and having to, not having to, but electing to speak, at these open meetings where there's, hundreds of people, strangers. And it's funny because it's almost like channeling. Once you start, the fear just evaporates because you're speaking from your heart. And that's really all channeling is. That's all is just opening your heart and letting it flow and not judging it and letting your heart speak. So that was a little bit into so I was thinking about how many of us, because we're afraid to go outside this comfort zone, we won't join a class, but therefore we won't either. Sometimes it's all or nothing with us. We then won't move at all because we're afraid. We aren't motivated. So as I was out there stretching, I was thinking about how I'm still not a. I'm really bad about regimen and about following like a video or a classroom kind of setting because I'm so intuitive with my body and that it tells me how to move. Now, there's a huge factor about doing things correctly and knowing how a body operates, doing things properly so you're not hurting yourself. But where I'm going with this is if you're intuitive with your body and you just simply get up and move and stretch and allow your body to tell you what it needs, how it needs to stretch, where it needs to move, it will tell you in a way, and it's not a replacement, it's in addition to perhaps, but perhaps you don't have that motivation at all. So if you can just get up and move to your own music. And I had to laugh because this morning, okay, Spirit speaks to us. We are channeling all the time. Our minds don't create thoughts, we receive thoughts. And I want to go back to the beginning of today, and the date equals 9/5. Today's Sunday. Happy cup of inspiration, cups of inspiration. I've got my lemon water, and I've got my wonderful coffee with agave and a cinnamon stick. I still love my coffee, but have been mindful of cutting down on my caffeine and increasing my water intake. And I was reminded about all these things about how we also we don't give ourselves credit for listening to our bodies and allowing that movement. And so this morning, Spirit speaks to us in so many ways. And so many mornings I wake up and I hear that song. It's by the New Rascals, and I played it this morning because it came in my head was "It's a Beautiful Morning." And I just said, you know what? I need to hear that song. It's come into my head almost every day. And I said, "It's a beautiful morning." And I think I'll go outside for a while. So I'll put the link. But I had to hear it because it was something I needed to feed my soul. And I'm just moving to the music, and I go and I'm outside stretching. And now that I've moved to a even more rural place, it's not easy to go find just an exercise class. But I've always been one of these people who really, I still love my time, my quiet. It's part of my cleansing process. It's part of my spiritual connection process. It's part of my connection to source, my body. So sometimes for me, I feel a classroom as a distraction, and yet yet I love yoga class. I I enjoy the camaraderie, the connection, the energy, the everything about it. It's just there's a place for both, and I think sometimes because if we can't get the other, or if it's too expensive, or if we can't get to it easy, we don't have time. We don't create time. You know. Get on YouTube and watch a video. And so I do all of it. I do a little bit of everything because for me, my soul needs something different every day, and maybe regimen to do the same kind of thing every single day for me doesn't serve me. And we've got to stop beating ourselves up about the stuff that doesn't serve us because it prevents us, it paralyzes us from doing the things that will. And so I was marveling too at today's the 21st, and From a month standpoint, it was a month ago on April 21st that I closed on my house and left Illinois and moved to this amazing place. And all the things that I've experienced just in the last month, 4 weeks, however you want to count it, has been, I mean, the physical growth, the spiritual growth, the emotional growth. I think I've experienced every emotion, every physical thing, and 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 today I'm reminded to sometimes we need to go back to we need to go back to the basics and remind ourselves where we've come in such a short time. And it's interesting because I had been looking for a particular journal in my moving, and I couldn't remember, and I'd been looking for a particular channeling that I had done quite some time ago, and I found it. And I wasn't even looking for it, like I had put it out to the universe. I'd really like to find that that journal, and there it was. And so I found it today, and it's interesting because the entry was, I was surprised that it was actually a year ago in January. And so I was so happy that I found it. So I'm going to share that. I don't know if I think I'm going to do it in a different video. But I wanted to share that with everybody because stretching is about going beyond the comfort zone. And I just looked at the time on here. It was 11:28. I had to laugh because it was 11:11 as I was thinking about all of this earlier today, and then just now 11:28 is the date of my birth date. So the time stamp was 11:28, and so I was thinking about, you know, that moment, that number and numbers, and how we relate to them, and going back to the basics, and how when I first started my awakening process, you know, part of my stretching was posting stuff, just posting stuff. I hadn't made videos or anything yet. And today I remember I was bringing out my beautiful leather journal that the day I had this journal for years and years and I only wrote one thing in it. And it was interesting because it was a dream that I had, and it was about being an oracle and meeting the oracles. And I'm not going to read it but right now, but so and then I put the book down because I really wanted to save it for something like my journey, a very special journey. And I just knew the day I heard the words from Seth, saying you create your own reality, from Jane Roberts. I get chills every time I get chills every time I remember that moment because it unlocked the door in me. It was the first time I heard anything that ever made any sense to me. And yet it scared the crap out of me and I shut it off. And it was really weird. But then right after that I found Bashar and I found so much other stuff. So, and I started to understand. So anyway, I started recording things in this book. Every Bashar video, everything that came to my mind, everything I recorded in here. And so I came back to this book, and I remembered that I loved writing down the sacred circuits. And so I was reminded today, okay, so number 9, today's number 9, the date, 5/21/2017, equals 9. And so I was reminded about symbols and about the galactic languages that I write, and that you know, I've got to start sharing these more often, and I haven't been. It's like, you know, it's one of those things that's kind of, it's not out. Well, I guess it's kind of outside my comfort zone in a way, in some ways, but so this was the one for today for 9. Number 9 is receive. And this is the sacred circuits. You can look them up online and on YouTube. There's lots and lots of videos that have like meditations, and some people put music to it. Some are some old Bashar videos that contain, you know, information about the sacred circuits. So this is number 9, receive. And so today I wanted to just reiterate about receiving and receiving your own intuition, receiving the information that's true for you. And because we really are, that's all we are, is beings of truth. We're made of truth, we're made of love, and we're always seeking our own vibrational truth. And going out of that comfort zone, you know, and sharing with the world who you are, what you are. That's what this is all about now. It's about going beyond your boundaries, opening up your throat chakra, connecting with nature, being with, listening to those birds. I sit and actually have little conversations with these birds, and I know they're probably talking to each other, but I know it's Source talking to me too. So, and then it was really funny because then as I'm going through this, my Bashar book, I came across the, I just happened to open to the page of the first day 1 year ago, and I wrote this on January 16th, 2016. And it was 1 year ago today, I posted my first Languages of the Lights, Galactic Light Language Channeling video. So, and that for me was huge, a huge stepping out of my comfort zone, and I wasn't even in front of the camera. So, if we're always exercising the same muscles over and over again, we go into the stretch that's a little uncomfortable, and then we stop and back off. Oh, that's a little uncomfortable. Well, that's precisely the muscle then that you need to be stretching. The one that takes you a little bit out of your comfort zone. And we're not talking about pain. We're talking about listening to your body, because you know what? If you really listen to your body, really, and you're not letting the ego push, and you're not letting the judgment push about your body and what it should be doing, and you let it move forward for you, your body's not going to let you hurt itself. It's going to allow you to move gracefully and gently through life. And it's about, putting on that song and just move. Because it's also your angels talking to you, your spirit guides talking to you, your higher self talking to you. That's how they talk to us, through our media. And everything you see is a creation based upon your frequency. So I was then guided to something that I had never shared before, about something that I had written. And this is one of those times when, we listen and we talk all the time about walking into our sovereignty. But when we actually have to practice it, it kind of scares us. And so sometimes for me, I've always been a poet, and I've always been like some form of a writer. And I have to laugh sometimes because my old journals were very perfunctory, in meaning I wrote the date, the exact time, the temperature, the weather, the general weather. I talked about my life. I wrote in pencil. That was one thing I hadn't talked about. I wrote in pencil, and most of my Bashar book is written in pencil. So I can erase in case there was things, I don't know, in case there was things I didn't want anybody to see, so I wanted to make sure I could erase it, I guess. Now I laugh because I buy these big bold gel pens, and all my journals now are just big bold gel pens, because that's who I am now, is big and bold, and I write in gel pens. And I have $1 here that I keep on here as a bookmark because it's 11, and this particular one has 2 10s on it, number 10. So for me, I see 11, 11. I see ones. I see, this is an American, dollar bill for anybody who's in another country. And, the symbol on the back that we have on our money with the pyramid and the third eye, and, and the eagle, our symbol of freedom and liberty. And so, and I don't want to get into any judgment about any of that right now, but, or at all. It's just, it is what it is in my reality. So, but I use it because of the 11s, because that particular bill just happened to have numbers that resonated with me, and that it's a symbol as that. So it's about doing what resonates with you, and not being afraid to step out and say, this is who I am, this is what I do. Because if you don't, who's going to, right? and even I have issues with coming out with being all that I am, and I'm so multidimensional because I'm meaning I enjoy so many different things. I really like to mix it up. I like the variety. To me, life is colorful, and we should express ourselves as a rainbow. So, and that means embracing all of it. Our anger, our all the stuff that we don't want to look at. This is exactly what I've been looking at. And yet it's so freeing because once you embrace it, encompass it all, that you understand more and more every day, and none of us ever have it ever done or figured out ever. That's why we're here together. All of this is speaking a language of light. Lemons, water, just love it. Just, and polka dots and swirlies and galactic light languages. And I'm really excited because I got 3 more new oracle decks, so I'm really excited about that. So that first dream in my journal about being an oracle. I've never said that out loud, I don't think, maybe privately, but this is that, and that was actually, when did I write that? I'll just tell you the year I wrote it. And actually, the very beginning of my journal, I wrote this quote from Theo that I learned through Abraham, through Esther Hicks, through Abraham, and and then you insert your name. I, Wendy, see and draw to me through divine love those beings who seek enlightenment through my process. The sharing will elevate us both now. Thank you, Theo. And I say that every day. So that and every day I ask to be pure, to be a receiver, to receive, number 9, to offer just a perspective of the information that I receive every day. I could talk all day long. I could make videos all day long. I am receiving information all day long, and I have to write notes and pick and choose what I want to share every given day and what I want to do, because I literally could do this all day. Different bits and pieces of it. And that's what being passionate is about, is just not just letting go. And I'm learning too. And by being vulnerable, we exercise, we stretch those muscles that we don't want to stretch. We accept, because when we're vulnerable and allow somebody else to be vulnerable, and we're vulnerable together, then it allows us to accept all sides of ourselves, because if we really, really are all one and all things, and if we have to absorb and accept that, and then move forward on the pieces of our lives that really excite us, without fear, without judgment. Because if you're getting the inkling to do it, write it, paint it, sing it, dance it, invent it, teach it, learn it, express it, it doesn't matter. Even if it sits in a book, like, okay, so my oracle dream was in 2008. And how we manifest by our thoughts. And I actually came across something to that effect in one of my journals. I probably can't find it right now, but so interesting how all this comes together with stretching ourselves, and so all this stuff has always been in me and a part of me. And then one day I woke up speaking galactic light languages, and that changed everything for me. It was the first time I think I ever actually allowed myself to connect in a way that was so pure that I had never, because there was nothing in the way. There was no ego. There was, there was, there was a lot of wow. But because you're like, oh my gosh, that, wow, what was that? And is that coming out of me? And who is that? Is that me talking? Is that someone else talking? Um, it might, yeah, and it's all of those. It's everything you want it to be. Um, because I had been asking for it all my life. All my life, I've known. So that's why all my journals used to be about my normal life and everyday life and all my relationships and stuff going on. But I was very careful. I was very, very careful about what I wrote. Because because if somebody read it later, oh my God, the most gorgeous bluebird. I tell you, the birds here, you guys, are just, the avian collective here it's constantly speaking to me. I'm like amazed at how I can have conversations with these birds, and it's like I'm hearing messages. I know I digress. I'm sorry. um, and I know it's getting to be a long video, and I know I need to split this up because I knew I was going to have to split it up because I was just too excited to share all this stuff. Um, and as I look down, though, I want to remind everybody that we have to remember where we've been. Um, our measure of where we've been, our measure of our progress, of our process. And all of you are here sharing my process, so thank you, and I'm sharing your process. This is our higher selves connecting. It's no accident you're here. It's perfect synchronicity. It's perfect timing for you. Um, it, it, we activate each other, and I, I, I go so many places in my mind that I lose track of where I'm at, where I'm at sometimes. But our our measure today, sometimes we forget how far we've come, is by what we are willing to do, how we're willing to stretch right now. That's kind of what I wanted to say. So that's your measure, your gauge for how far you've come, is how much more willing you are in this now than you are in your last perceived now. Because as scared as I was to growing up and singing in choir and never wanting to do a solo because I was too afraid, and yet all my life I felt like I was doing things to stretch that muscle, right? Speaking, in the open meetings, doing the exercise class. And then I had jobs in which all my positions were in where I had to be in a teaching role, a management role, a mentor role, so I was always going outside of my comfort zone, and every time stretching my boundaries further and further, because then you know what you're capable of, and more of what you're capable of, and more of what you're capable of. And every day I hike these hills, and just because it feels amazing, because I want to be stronger. Um, it's a connection, and Ranger loves it. He leaps like a deer, and after the deer and the turkeys and the squirrels, and so everything is this. We're always receiving. The message today is we're always receiving, and by sharing, you receive. By putting what you are out there, you receive. I receive so much the more I put out than you can possibly imagine. And especially when I know that you guys are out there and you're listening, and the languages speak to you, the messages speak to you, the oracle readings speak to you, whatever the case may be. So I want to do all kinds of a variety of things, and mix it up, and And really, that's what my readings, like a personal stuff, personal sessions, really turn into, are these conglomerations of, it's this multidimensional exercising, okay? It's this chakras, it's light languages, it's messages, it's instinctive information that flows through, that if I don't second guess it and just say it, it's immediately synchronistic to the other individual. Of course it is, because we're meeting on a higher level simultaneously, where everything's happening right now. We're always meeting and greeting on higher levels, always, all of us. And then we wake up in the morning and we come and act it out as if we are limited beings again. And we are learning from each other's process. So I'm going to end this one because we're going to go over on time. So I love you. Mahala. And on to the next video.